Why are some people able to inspire those around them and effect change, simultaneously advancing rapidly in their careers? What internal and external forces shape our identities as leaders? And how can women in particular learn to understand and use these forces to become inspiring agents of change, whether at work or in the world at large? You'll find out in this course, Women in Leadership, Inspiring Positive Change. My name is Diana Billamoria, and I am KeyBank Professor and Chair of Organizational Behavior at Case Western Reserve University's Weatherhead School of Management. I have taught, advised, and coached professional women and men in a wide variety of organizations. Over the years, I've seen that successful leadership requires certain critical skills. Skills we'll explore in this course, including the ability to reflect on and build your own leadership identity, to develop and then enact your career and life values and priorities, and to understand and effectively navigate the organizational context in which you operate. Our course aims to inspire and empower participants across the world to take on more leadership for important reasons, to lead change with more conviction and confidence, and improve all our workplaces and communities for everyone. We'll address the impact of a persistent gender gap among the most senior levels of leadership and the tendency for women's managerial contributions to be underutilized and undervalued. And we'll ask, what opportunities could our global economy unlock by advancing more women to leadership? How can the full talents of our workforce be harnessed and developed? Whether you're looking to improve your own leadership abilities or to better support the women in your organization, you'll benefit from the opportunity to learn and better articulate your strengths and aspirations and develop your leadership identity. You will learn to negotiate more effectively, to define your own career success, to build your networks and grow your social capital, to better integrate your life and career responsibilities, and to create a plan of action for career success. Join us and inspire positive change. Hello everyone, my name is Diana Billamoria. I'm KeyBank Professor and Chair of Organizational Behavior, and welcome to our course, Women in Leadership, Inspiring Positive Change. I'll give an overview of the course first, and then we'll jump right into the topic. The objective of this course is to inspire, empower, and equip participants to understand the dynamics surrounding women in leadership, build a purposeful plan for career development, and take on leadership for important reasons, with more conviction and confidence. There are many learning goals that we have, including enhancing your understanding of yourself and your leadership identity, gaining a deep understanding of the dynamics and experiences of women in organizations, to identify and enhance effective leadership practices for yourself and for women in your organization, and finally, to define your vision of career success and work-life integration, to identify the necessary resources and the networks that you need for career development, and to create a plan of action to accomplish your goals. There are many key questions that our course will address, particularly relating to the key attributes of women in the global workplace, leadership goals and aspirations that you hold, the strengths that you hold, the gender nature of organizations that impact women, how women can be propelled forward to advance, and what holds women back and derails their advancement. How do you define career success? How can you best integrate your multiple family and work-life commitments? And what can organizations do to provide women with opportunities to excel and advance? We'll have 8 different sessions. In our first course session, we'll focus on women's strengths as leaders. Next, we will focus on leadership identity, values, and vision. We will also then focus on the status and the representation of women's leadership at the top, and the advancement barriers and challenges that women face in organizations. In the next set of sessions, we'll focus on leadership tools for women, self-confidence, navigating organizational politics, and negotiating effectively. We'll close the course by focusing on purposeful career development for women. Now let's focus on women's strengths as leaders. Our agenda will be to focus on why organizations need women leaders. What do we know about the strengths of women as leaders? And what is leadership like in the 21st century? I'll start by just giving a summary statement about the bulk of research that has been done on women's leadership. That studies overwhelmingly find that female managers are equal to or outshine their male counterparts on many competencies. I'll give you two sets of results in the next two slides. Let me start with describing what Businessweek found as the status of women's competencies for leadership when they did a meta-analysis of many studies pertaining to the competencies of women. In this slide, what you will see is a series of studies. Each asterisk represents a study that showed the competencies of men and women. What Businessweek found was that in almost every study, women outshined the competencies of men on a 360-degree basis. That means when surveys were sent out to their supervisors, their peers, and their direct reports. And this finding tells us that in almost every case, women are very strong on leadership competencies. In those other cases where women's and men's competencies are equal, in those cases, it is clear also that these are strengths. A more recent study, this is a slide that I will share with you about the more recent studies around the same issues of the competencies for leadership of women and men. This was a study that was done by Zenger Folkman, a consultancy service, that looked at a survey of more than 7,000 women and men leaders in their global database for their company. Again, what they found is indisputable evidence that women are strong for leadership, at least as strong and sometimes even better in the case of leadership competencies. What was also determined is that as the level got higher in the organization, as a person's level got higher in the organization, women's competencies were more clear and more strong for leadership than men's competencies. At middle levels and at lower levels, men and women had equal competencies. At higher levels, women's competencies were even greater. Other research has shown that leadership style also varies across men and women. A particular meta-analysis that was done by my colleagues showed that over 160 studies, only one major difference was found in the leadership style of women and men, in that women used a more participative or democratic style and a less autocratic or directive style than men did. The interesting part of this finding was that this tendency declined in highly male-dominated settings, indicating that in a highly gendered environment, men and women will use the same kinds of leadership styles. And women's natural tendencies towards being more participative or democratic will be suppressed in a more male-dominated setting. Other research finds no differences between male and female leaders in leader aptitude, in motivation to be a leader, in commitment to be a leader, in job satisfaction, and in subordinate satisfaction. All of these studies signal women's leadership strengths, including a mission-focused approach, high level of relational skills, particularly collaboration, teamwork, and connection, that women engage and empower others, that they share information and give straight feedback, that they include differing perspectives and seek input and voice, that they have intellectual and analytic skills, they're creative and risk-taking, they work hard, they demonstrate care for employees, for customers, for community, and that they engage in good governance and ethics. I want us to look at these various aspects of women's leadership because in the 21st century, these are the exact same set that is required for effective leadership. Focusing on mission, engaging and connecting, sharing information, bringing people together, engaging in a creative and risk-taking way, but based on mission and purpose, showing care for community, customers, and employees, and operating with integrity and good governance. These are what the 21st century demands of leadership, which leads us to the conclusion that women are ideally suited for leadership in the 21st century. It's our time now to leverage these strengths to become change leaders in organizations and societies, to bring about the positive change and to inspire others to positive change through women's leadership. In this final slide, I want to speak to the homework assignment, what we call the best self exercise. We invite you to conduct about 4 to 5 interviews with significant people in your life. They could be at work, or they could be in your home life or your community life. But your task is to ask them to provide examples that describe your best self. The reason why we ask you to focus on your best self and your strengths is because you have many opportunities to hear about your weaknesses, your gaps, and the areas that you need to develop. This exercise gives you the opportunity to collect information from valued others about what you're great at. So we ask you to ask for examples of your characteristics and behaviors when you are at your best. What were the strengths and the advantages that you offered in these examples? What about you inspired the interviewee? And how do you bring out the best of other people through your own actions and your own initiative? Once you've collected this data, we invite you to create a document, 300 to 900 words, to write a reflection about what you learned, about your strengths and your unique capabilities from these interviews. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Women in Leadership Inspiring Positive Change course. My name is Diana Billamoria, and I'm the KeyBank Professor and Chair of Organizational Behavior at the Weatherhead School of Management at Case Western Reserve University. We will focus this session on leadership values and vision. Our agenda will be to define what inspiring leadership is, understand the strategies of high-achieving women, focus in on your own identity as a leader, particularly your values and your leadership vision, and define what we mean by leading with authentic purpose. Let's start by just defining what inspiring leadership is. Of course, there are many different definitions of what inspiring leadership is. Let me offer to you the ones that I have found to be the most connecting and resonant with the people I have worked with. When we speak of inspiring, we're referring to authentically engendering positive emotions in self and others to bring out our best. And when we refer to leadership, we speak to 3 different elements of those: empowering people, mobilizing resources. That means not just allocating the resources, but getting them creatively, finding the resources in places where we would not expect to find them, and generating new connections in order to get resources. And then the third part of leadership is toward a greater purpose. So let me say that again: empowering people, mobilizing resources toward a greater purpose. The most inspiring leaders we know are able to take the most difficult or uncertain times and unleash the best in oneself and in others by inspiring trust and motivating excellence. They're able to generate and align resources to move the team forward. They create the positive contagion of inspiration, energy, challenge, and support. They counter the unproductive spirals. These are the negative emotions that sometimes are endemic in our organizations, such as anxiety and anger and confusion, despair, denial, cynicism, victim behavior, blaming, hatred. And inspiring leaders set the example for desired behaviors. I want to speak to a particular study that was done by our colleagues at the Center for Creative Leadership. And they described, through their analyses of literally hundreds of women, what are the high-achieving women's strategies for inspiring leadership. And they located 5 of these that I want to just touch on. And then the rest of this course, we will in fact be talking about them in much more detail. The first strategy of high-achieving women was to act authentically, so that they knew who they were and acted on their own values, their purpose, and their vision, and they believed in themselves. The second strategy was to act powerfully. That is to set their goals, adapt them as necessary, stay open to possibilities, and take control of the future. The third strategy of high-achieving women, to make connections, to create the allies and the networks, to develop mentoring relationships, reconnecting in the past, and tapping into the networks of community and professional relationships. The fourth strategy of high-achieving women was to foster feelings of wholeness in themselves, establish clear priorities, take time for reflection and spirituality, and harness learning across different life roles and career roles. And the final element that this group of researchers found cut across and was common among all of the high-achieving women they studied was that they gained understanding not just of themselves, but of the organizational systems in which they worked, by seeking feedback about their own leadership and by paying attention to the fit issues, how they fit with their organization's culture and with the jobs and the careers that they were in. Let me move us on to what leadership identity is. Leadership identity refers to how we construct ourselves as leaders in the work world and in the larger world as well. It consists of our leadership values, our purpose and vision, our philosophy, our demeanor, our strengths and our actions, and our responses. And it reflects the example that we set as leaders. So the leadership identity that we construct is how we see ourselves as leaders in the world around us. It's very important to have this sense of leadership identity because it shapes our actions and it creates the impact and develops the contributions that we make as leaders. Let's focus in on what values are. Values are very important to identify because they undergird our identity as leaders. So values consist of the set of principles that cannot be compromised for convenience or for gain. On this slide, which says identify your values exercise, there are a number of different values that are listed. This comes from the 5th Discipline Field Book. I invite you to select the top 10 values that hold true for who you are. And then after you've narrowed down to 10, narrow down even further to the top 5. If there are any other values that you hold that are not on this list, add them in. But the purpose of this exercise is to enable you to identify what undergirds your leadership. Once you've narrowed down to the top 5 values, reflect on those by asking yourself, did anything surprise you? How have your values played out in your career? And in what types of situations have your values been put to the test? By answering these questions, again, you deeply reflect on how your values drive your best self-leadership. Let me move us on now to the topic of leading with vision. Our colleagues at INSEAD did a study that looked at, again, hundreds of leaders. And they found that there are 3 elements to leading with vision. The first is to develop a sense of opportunities and threats in the environment by simplifying complex situations and foreseeing events that will affect the future. The second element of leading with vision is to demonstrate what is called strategic direction setting. That is by encouraging new business directions and opportunities, by defining new strategies to accomplish the mission and the vision of the organization, and making decisions with an eye to the big picture. And the third element of leading with vision is inspiring others, inspiring them to challenge the status quo, to be open to new ways of doing things, and inspiring others to look beyond limitations. These are the critical elements of leading with vision. By acting with authentic purpose, we consistently inspire others and build trust. We know our own capabilities and talents, and this increases our own self-confidence. By anchoring in purpose, we're able to make the choices about our own development and about the directions in which we need to move in order to accomplish the goals we set. Authentic purpose is about maintaining alignment between values, beliefs, and behaviors. I invite you to do another exercise. If you could lead any company, institution, or organization in the world, which one would you choose? And what would be your first act as CEO, the Chief Executive Officer? This enables us to hone in a little bit more around the vision of inspiring positive change that drives you. So again, I invite you to do this exercise before we move on. Here I'd like to spend a few minutes just narrowing a little bit more on what is vision. I'll share with you different ideas, and we'll use those to hone in on our own vision of leadership. My colleague Peter Block has said, vision is our deepest expression of what we want. It is the preferred future, a desirable state, an ideal state, and an expression of optimism. It expresses a spiritual and idealistic side of the human nature. It is a dream created in our waking hours of how we would like our lives to be. A vision provides a picture of the future direction and purpose. It provides a sense of identity and meaning. It encourages coordination and integration of activities. It attracts commitment and energizes people. It serves as a basis for team norms and structures, and it establishes a standard for excellence. In many ways, vision is a template of purpose. A vision statement is an inspirational message to followers or others around us that expresses optimism about the future, confidence in achieving positive future challenges and opportunities, while highlighting the intrinsic needs that can be met and connecting all of this to the core values of our organization or our team. There are different levels of leadership vision. We can hold a leadership vision for ourselves at the individual level. We might hold a leadership vision for our team, and certainly for at higher levels, the organization, even the society or the country. So leadership can be exercised at any level. Your leadership vision enables you to create a picture of the future that defines your leadership purpose in terms of your values. It provides direction for sustained and meaningful and fulfilling engagement. It doesn't predict the future, but it creates it. It's the big picture of what you want to accomplish and contribute. I invite you to feel the pull toward the vision rather than the push, which sometimes we're very familiar with. Knowing your vision helps you to better evaluate opportunities and decisions. And I encourage you to find the vision, not of what others want, but of what you want. There are two components to leadership vision, what we call the core purpose. Sometimes we refer to that as a mission. It is a fundamental reason for your leadership. And then the second part is the dream of the future, what you aspire to accomplish through your leadership. Let me give you two examples. These are people I've coached in a variety of different settings. One of them was a marketing manager, and she identified that the core purpose of her leadership was to inspire and enable my team to create innovative solutions for clients' marketing needs. Her dream of the future was to start her own marketing consultancy firm and be recognized for innovative and revenue-generating approaches. A second example, again from coaching. This was with a colleague who was a university faculty member. Her leadership vision was to be recognized as a successful researcher, a respected teacher and mentor, and an individual who positively impacts my students, institution, and discipline. As you can see from these examples, these individuals have taken what is most important to them and created the authentic purpose for their leadership. And by defining it in terms of both the core purpose and what they want to have happen in the future, they're able to provide a template of purpose that guides and directs their choice-making and their decision-making. So I invite you to complete the following personal leadership vision exercise by just simply filling in the blanks for the following items. The area in which I want my leadership to best contribute is, the core purpose of my leadership is to, the leader I want to be is a person who is, my leadership serves, who and how, through my leadership we will, and my leadership will be recognized for. Please take a few minutes to fill in the blanks on these so that you begin to create a powerful sense of your leadership as you go into the future. I would like to close our session by reflecting on the cycle of purposeful planning and intentional change. It starts with clarifying our values and vision and identifying our strengths and our gaps, recognizing the obstacles that are barriers and derailers of our vision. We identify the supporters and the alliances that are needed and develop goals and actions, which then guide what we do, the behaviors and the actions about which we receive feedback. And as this cycle continues, we engage in what is called a process of intentional change. This is what my colleague, Dr. Richard Boyatzis, has said in his previous writings. I want to invite us to reflect a little bit on the obstacles to achieving your vision. Just like we focus on the hope and the optimism of the future, we must recognize also what are the obstacles that might get in the way, so that we balance between what is exciting and positive and also what needs to be overcome to get more closely towards our vision of the future. There are many different types of obstacles, some at the organizational level, or even at the societal level, some at the interpersonal level, how we relate to each other, how my boss relates to me, how my direct reports connect to me, as well as at the individual level. These are the internalized obstacles that may hold me back. Once you've identified the obstacles, as well as created the dream of the future, let's move forward to distilling your vision into an actionable development plan. At the broadest level, the development plan consists of your values-driven leadership vision. This is your authentic purpose. At the next level, it consists of your professional development goals. What are the necessary things that must be done to achieve your vision? And in order to achieve those goals, there have to be some actions. And that forms the core of the development plan, the specific actions that need to be taken in order to create and fulfill and realize the dream of the future. There are some common mistakes that we make in our purposeful career development plan. Some are that we don't set any goals. Sometimes we set too many goals. Sometimes we aim too high or too low. Sometimes it's not specific enough. Sometimes we don't own our own goals. We try to do what others want us to do. Sometimes we don't take charge of our own professional and leadership development. These are common mistakes that I have seen as I've coached people through the development plan to achieve and realize and fulfill their vision of themselves in the future. I encourage you to recognize and identify when any of these are happening to you and to take steps to make the odds of your achieving your vision even stronger. Let's conclude the session that we have had so far by the following points. Inspiring leadership consists of authentically bringing out the best of yourself and others by empowering people and mobilizing resources toward a greater purpose. Your identity as a leader develops from your values, your authentic purpose, and vision. Take the steps that help you to find your values and your vision and create your authentic path as a leader into the future. By engaging in intentional leadership development through the process that I just described, great benefits have come to the women and men I have worked with as a coach. I invite you to complete the homework assignment, which is to write a 300 to 600 word reflection on the exercises we just did, the Identify Your Values exercise and the Personal Leadership Vision exercise, so that you can not just do the exercises, but also reflect on what you have learned and what insights you develop from these exercises. Thank you very much.